hell that meant. As a consequence of my shitty weekend, I was now exhausted from the near constant debate in my head about whether or not I should finish with Nathan. I was in far too deeply now, feeling things for him that were well outside the boundaries of our ridiculous contract, so I knew that either option would ultimately be painful for me. I'd also made the uncomfortable discovery that 2 evenings of sex with Nathan just weren't enough for me. Apparently, I needed an entire weekend to get my fill so that I could survive a full week without him. A sordid little realization that merely added to my foul mood this morning. The familiar voices and footsteps of 2 of my managers floated in the air as they approached my office discussing which restaurant to go to for lunch, so I quickly scrabbled myself upright, stared vacantly at my laptop screen, and then cringed at my own earlier thoughts. Survive a full week without him. Christ, I sounded like an alcoholic or something. I rolled my eyes. I had turned into a frigging Nathan-aholic, and as much as I might try to deny it to myself, I was in desperate need of a fix. A sudden and shrill ringing broke me from my depressing thoughts, and after a second I dazedly realized it was my mobile phone ringing and vibrating its way across the shiny surface of my desk. Mobiles weren't permitted in the office, but in my exhausted daze this morning I'd forgotten to silence the bloody thing. Snatching it up, I glared at the screen as if it had rung on purpose to get me into trouble, but not recognizing the number, I frowned, walking away from the main office to answer it. Flicking open the phone once I had reached the safety of the corridor, I rammed it next to my ear. "What?" I snapped, flinching as I realized how moody I sounded and praying it wasn't my mother or an important client. "Stella, hi!" My eyes widened as I recognized the male voice on the other end of the line, and I immediately felt some of the tension dissipate from my body as a huge grin spread across my face. This was certainly a very well-timed, very welcomed interruption to my earlier self-inflicted misery. "Simon? Oh my God, Simon!" I shrieked as I practically jumped on the spot. But when I noticed several colleagues further down the corridor had stopped and turned to look at me in surprise, I bit my tongue to calm myself down. I was on the phone in an office corridor, not screaming out an ABBA classic in a hushed library for heaven's sake, so I really didn't know what their problem was, but I lowered my voice, then gave them an apologetic shrug and turned to face the window with a smirk. I might have been feeling pretty grumpy after my disastrous weekend with Nathan, but hearing Simon's voice was just amazing and so unexpected that I couldn't seem to calm the jittery excitement coursing through my veins. "When did you get back?" "This morning. I've only got 4 days leave, but I was hoping you might be free to meet for a drink tonight," he asked expectantly in that lovely rich baritone of his. There was no hesitation from me. Yes, just tell me where and when and I'll be there," I exclaimed excitedly, deciding that Simon's visit gave me the perfect opportunity to further delay making any decisions about my relationship with Nathan. If our weekly contracted shag sessions could even be called a relationship, I thought with a self-derisive snort. Hanging up, I went back to work with a new energy, and my thoughts of Nathan were temporarily forgotten. Not that you could ever really forget someone as enigmatic as Nathaniel Jackson, but at least my mind was on more constructive things now, and my depressingly dull and empty Monday evening looked like it would be far more interesting. I couldn't wipe the grin off my face. A full evening with Simon. I couldn't wait. Glancing down at my rather drab office clothes, I scrunched up my nose. With the swanky venue he had chosen, I was definitely going to need to go home and change before I headed out. Deciding to skip lunch so I could leave work an hour early, I dug in my desk for a cereal bar and then munched on it as I hummed happily to myself, ridiculously glad that Simon had chosen today of all days to call me. Twirling in front of the mirror in my hallway, I dismissed my current outfit with a scowl. This trouser suit made me